Did you know that one of the most controversial paintings in all of England has travelled to the Palace of Versailles? This is no ordinary image of a naked woman. It is the definitive representation of a legend that took centuries to build, and today I am going to tell you why it remains so powerful. There are paintings that simply decorate a wall. And then there are paintings that provoke, that unsettle, that make people stop and not quite know what they are feeling. Lady Godiva by John Collier, painted in 1898 and housed at the Herbert Art Gallery in Coventry, belongs to that second category. And in 2024, it travelled to the Palace of Versailles for the Paris Olympic Games. An image over 100 years old, placed among gilded mirrors and 18th-century boiseries. That does not happen by accident. Today we are going to break it all down, the real woman who existed behind the legend, the secret about the 16-year-old model, the symbols Collier hid in the composition, and why this painting invented the modern iconography of civil disobedience. Stay until the end, because the final detail about the spectators of this scene will make you rethink everything you thought you knew about voyeurism and ethics. Let us start with something almost no one knows: Lady Godiva really existed. But her name was not Godiva. It was Godgifu, which in Old English means gift of God. And she was no decorative figure beside her husband. She was a landowner with real power, extensive properties, and a voice of her own in 11th century society. Her husband, Leofric, Earl of Mercia, is mentioned in the chronicles of the time as a powerful but inflexible nobleman when it came to taxing the citizens of Coventry. Historical records show her as a benefactor, a founder of monasteries, someone deeply committed to her people. The problem is that the famous naked ride does not appear in any text contemporary to her. Historians who lived in her era make no mention of it. The account emerges 200 years after her death, through the chronicler Roger of Wendover, in his work Flores Historiarum. And from the very beginning, the story has all the ingredients of a legend: the impossible challenge, the radical act of obedience, hair as a natural veil, and citizens who closed their eyes as a sign of respect. Was it real? Probably not. Does it matter? Perhaps less than we think, because what matters is what that story tells us about how a society understands power, the body, and sacrifice. To understand why this painting matters so much, we need to understand the moment in which it was created. John Collier was a direct pupil of Millet's, one of the founders of Pre-Raphaelitism, that movement which recovered meticulous detail, vibrant colors, and a love of the medieval. Collier inherited all of that, but applied it during an era of moral upheaval. In the 1880s, England was caught in a fierce debate about the body, morality, and art. In 1885, the Criminal Law Amendment Act was passed, raising the age of consent from 13 to 16, partly in response to public scandals about the exploitation of minors. Victorian Puritanism was at its peak. Painting a naked woman in that climate was risky. Collier achieved it through a very calculated strategy: the lighting is soft, almost sacred. Godiva's posture conveys modesty, not exhibitionism. The background is austere. Everything communicates moral respectability, even though the figure is completely nude. It is art disguised as an ethics lesson. And now we reach the detail most people do not know. The model who posed for John Collier as Lady Godiva was a young actress named Mabel Violet Hall, known professionally as Mab Paul. She was 16 years old. Collier was 48. Stated like that, it sounds unsettling. But there is more nuance here. Mab Paul was no vulnerable unknown. She was an emerging actress with her own career who probably saw modeling as a real opportunity to enter the art world and raise her public profile. Collier was so impressed by her that he painted her again in 1902 and 1903. It was not a casual encounter, but an artistic collaboration that left a lasting mark on the painter's body of work. This does not resolve every ethical question, but it does add complexity. Art history is full of models whom historiography has treated as passive figures, when in reality they had agency, made their own decisions, and had their own strategies. Now I want us to look at the painting with fresh eyes. Every element you see in the composition has been chosen with a precise intention. The horse is white. This is not a decorative detail. White symbolizes chastity and purity. And notice that this white horse does not appear in the original medieval sources. Collier adds it deliberately to load Godiva visually with moral meaning. The saddle cloth, by contrast, is a vivid vermilion red. The red of passion, of strength, of revolutionary action. That tension between the white of the horse and the red of the saddle cloth is the tension of the entire legend, purity used as a political weapon. Then there is the posture. Victorian women rode side saddle, with both legs on the same flank of the horse. That was considered proper. Godiva sits astride. It is a masculine posture, one of command, of someone who does not ask for permission. In 1897, that was a statement. Finally, one tiny detail that sums up everything: Godiva wears only one object. No jewelry, no veils, no adornments. Only her wedding ring. A constant reminder that her act is not provocation, but honor. Let us do something I love. Compare this painting with two great masters to understand exactly what Collier is doing at a technical level. First, Vermeer. Girl with a pearl earring uses the camera obscura to achieve a dramatic chiaroscuro and an almost photographic realism. The light is hard, direct, theatrical. In Collier's Godiva the light is completely different, soft, diffused, without harsh shadows. Collier does not want